Well, good afternoon. I did have the pleasure of listening through a few of the presentations, and even though statistical, my course as a junior in stat at Berkeley held me in reasonably good stead. So it was a real pleasure, and I want to thank you for inviting me to your meeting today. I suspect that many of you have heard of AARP. We do tend to get in touch with most Americans at some point. But I'm guessing that what you think about AARP might be only part of the story. So I'd like to fill in a few gaps. AARP was created by Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, a brilliant, feisty, red-headed trailblazer who cared profoundly about other people. She was also at least a century before her time. Ethel became one of the first women high school principals in California. One day, she went to visit one of her former teachers who was reported to need help. It turns out that the woman was living in poverty due to her unaffordable health care bills. Her home, if you can call it that, was a chicken coop, a shack without any windows. This was in the 1940s. Being poor was all too common for older people. Social Security was in its infancy, and Medicare was years away. The moment she realized how desperate the Spanish teacher's situation was and how many others were there like her in our society, Dr. Andrus dedicated herself to improving the lives of older Americans. As she said, "We live in a country where it is wonderful to be young. It's time we create a country in which it is wonderful to be old." Central to her mission was making affordable health care insurance available to retired teachers, which she believed made not only moral sense, but also good market sense. She went on to create AARP at age 74, offering health insurance and resources for a fulfilling life to any member who was over 65. Today, we have almost 38 million members, offices in every state and territory, and a huge array of programs aimed at helping older Americans and their families. Dr. Andrus had 3 words inscribed on AARP's first official seal in 1958. Those words were dignity, independence, and purpose. They sounded revolutionary in 1958, and it's remarkable how much things have changed since then. Today, we are all in the midst of a titanic change in population that will make our world look like a totally different place. In 2014, the youngest baby boomers turned 50. They are the end of a generation that is 78 million strong, and we've learned that wherever they go, they change the landscape. By 2030, the number of older Americans in the United States will nearly double. 1 in 5 Americans will be age 65 or older, and the fastest growing age group in this country is those over 85 years of age. 10,000 people are turning 65 in this country every day. And the actuaries at Social Security say that 1 in 4 of them will live beyond 90, some of them for many years. Today, a child has a better than 50% chance of living to be 100. We might have 1 million people age 100 or over by the year 2030. More than any time in the history of the world, we see an opportunity for all of these older people to live long, productive, rewarding lives. We see the potential for people to contribute, grow, learn, and enjoy life for a long, long time. And society can do so much more to make this exciting vision real for everyone. We all have a role to play in creating this wonderful time in our lives. That includes individuals, communities, nonprofits, the private sector, and government. One aspect of healthy independent aging is just starting to get the attention that it deserves, and that is the role of the communities where we live. AARP is heavily involved in initiatives to make our communities livable and age-friendly for people of all ages, I stress, not just the older people. In many places, though, that is not currently the case. For instance, roadways intended to connect people can become barriers for folks who cannot drive. Shopping, going to the doctor, or visiting family and friends are off limits when public transportation isn't available and walking is not a safe option. AARP defines a livable community as a place where people of all ages can live secure, healthy lives and stay engaged in civic and social life. Livable communities feature housing choices, transportation, shopping, and other services that meet everyone's needs. They make it easier for people to stay independent and avoid isolation. But communities do not become more livable by accident. Engaged residents and forward-thinking local officials can play a critical role in shaping the places they live and promoting good decisions. Communities need to rethink the features and services that enable people of all ages to live safe and healthy lives. This entails re-examining everything from land use and zoning to housing, healthcare, recreation, and, important for all of us here today, re-examining transportation. Livable communities must offer transportation options that improve health, support vibrant neighborhoods, and connect people to economic, social, and civic opportunities. Reliable, safe, and affordable public transportation ensures that people can get to work, school, and the other places they need to be. Well-designed signage and traveler information help people find the places where they want to go. Safe pedestrian and cycling infrastructure encourages people to walk, bike, or roll to destinations. We must never forget that older adults are overrepresented in both vehicle and pedestrian crash fatalities. But well-designed roads help to extend the safe driving years of many older adults, while also making it possible to travel safely in the community by foot, bicycle, or public transit. AARP has some rich resources on these very subjects. Our Livable Communities Initiative in the aarp.org/livable website, that's aarp.org/livable, offers a collection of information and tools about age-friendly, livable neighborhoods and safe streets. On that site, you can find inspiring case studies of cities and towns that have taken steps to revamp their transportation designs. And I'd like to give you a few examples. One fine example is located about 30 or 40 miles up the road, and that is Grand Rapids, Michigan, which had the state's second most dangerous roadways for bicyclists a decade ago. In just 1 year, the number of serious car versus bicycle crashes in Grand Rapids fell 81%. Total crashes fell 40% thanks to a community education program called Driving Change. It was fueled by a $600,000 grant from the Michigan Department of Transportation and steered by an advisory committee of more than 60 members. The campaign used simple safety messages, 2 humorous 30-second videos which mimicked a group therapy session, with the bicyclists complaining, "You don't see me," and the driver protesting, "You don't stop." You ever hear that one before? Every Grand Rapids resident has likely encountered the driving change message at least 9 times. The campaign has succeeded where nagging to share the road simply flopped. New York City offers another example, creating bus stop benches and shelters that are attractive and comfortable enough to encourage bus ridership. They are also a fine resting place for pedestrians. The Department of Transportation took recommendations from senior centers for locations that would benefit from new or improved age-friendly benches and shelters. The city flagged neighborhoods within a quarter-mile of hospitals, community health centers, or municipal health facilities. Benches were designed to fit a variety of body shapes with armrest place so they could help a person sit and stand up again. One last example. In Washington, D.C., multi-generational teams deployed throughout the city on the hunt for broken sidewalks, missing curb cuts, traffic signals too short for safe crossing, and other unsafe conditions. Every group included someone 50 plus, and team members brought wheelchairs, strollers, canes, and walkers to help flag problems. They used a mobile app to report more than 850 problems in the city. These are a few examples offered on the Livable Communities website, which I gave you, along with the tools and resources needed to get started on creating the places where we would all hope to live. It's been a launch pad for elected officials, policymakers, legislative staff, community leaders, and citizen activists. I recommend a visit. And again, for the last time, so you better get those pencils going, it's www.aarp.org/livable. Now we know from AARP research that people want to stay in their own homes and communities as long as they possibly can. And we know that they do not want to be a burden on their families and friends. And we want our communities to support those wishes if at all possible. The good news is that making communities age-friendly makes them better for people of all ages. Just think of something as basic as crossing the street. You shouldn't have to be an Olympic sprinter to make it to the other side before the "Don't Walk" sign starts flashing. That's as true for the young mom pushing a stroller as it is for the grandfather leaning on a walker or a child strolling home from school. Think about all the residents who cannot get the necessities of life without getting behind the wheel of a car, much less take it on the freeway. Most communities have a long way to go in providing safe and convenient transportation options that work for everyone. By the way, if you want to get an idea how your own community is doing on several measures, AARP has introduced an exciting tool called the Livability Index. The AARP Livability Index lets you see how well your community is meeting the needs of residents and gives it a score in areas as varied as walkability, housing costs, and the environment. You can find it at aarp.org/livabilityindex, and the newest version is available for the first time this week. I looked up my own neighborhood, and it has scores right down to about a 6-block area for every single place in the United States of America. You just put in your zip code. It's really amazing, trust me. I want to spend a little time talking about a facet of livability that doesn't always get the attention it deserves, and that poses a particular menace to older adults, and that is isolation. Different from simply being alone, isolation is the result of being disconnected from support groups of family, friends, and community. Any number of factors may contribute: reduced mobility, hearing or vision loss, lack of access to affordable transportation, death of a spouse, loss of a driver's license, and more. When setbacks hit, vulnerable older adults can easily become homebound, detached, depressed, simply isolated. This has been shown to be a genuine health threat, especially for adults age 50 and older. In fact, the health risks posed by prolonged isolation are about equal to smoking 15 cigarettes each and every day. Accessible transportation is a great antidote to isolation, easing social interactions and helping people get to doctor's appointments and to the grocery store, all of which contribute to good health. AARP's Public Policy Institute looked at whether there is a link between social isolation and Medicare spending, and there is. About 4 million older adults enrolled in traditional Medicare are deemed to be socially isolated. And that costs the federal government almost $7 billion in additional spending every year. Medicare spends an estimated $134 more monthly for each socially isolated older adult. So isolation is an economic as well as a health risk to communities. Let's switch gears from the dangers for a moment and focus on the many advantages and opportunities that livable communities create. They cross the generations. From babies to baby boomers and beyond, we all benefit when the places we live are designed for the rest of our lives. Boomers and millennials, about 150 million people, often want the very same things. Both groups would trade a shorter commute for a smaller home. More than 40% of boomers and 60% of millennials want to be close to shops, offices, and restaurants. They want neighborhoods that have a mix of housing types, and they want public transportation options. In public transportation, riders under and over age 65 value frequency and speed in their transit options most. Older riders also emphasize accessibility and comfort, with shelter and seating ranking high among their priorities. Sounds like something that would feel wonderful to all of us, frankly. But I do have some good news. AARP is here to offer its help in creating livable, age-friendly communities. They collaborate with local officials to make improvements that enhance the quality of life for residents, the economic prospects for businesses, and the bottom lines of local governments. Even better news is that what's good for residents of all ages is also good for the business and the economic climate. And that takes me to my soapbox, making a pitch for AARP's network of age-friendly communities. This is a global network of communities that are committed to giving their older residents the opportunity to live rewarding, productive, safe lives. AARP works with local officials and partner organizations around the country to identify communities for membership. Needless to say, I'd be delighted to talk to you about joining. The AARP Network of Age-Friendly Communities is an affiliate of the World Health Organization's Age-Friendly Cities and Communities program, an international effort launched in 2006 to help cities prepare for rapid population aging. The program has participating communities in more than 20 nations, and I'm happy to say that Michigan has 5 communities that have taken the steps to join the age-friendly network: Auburn Hills, East Lansing, Highland Park, Lansing, and Southfield. And by the way, I think Grand Rapids is well on its way. The program advances efforts to help people live easily and comfortably in their homes and communities as they age. It's a wonderful initiative, so please feel free to ask me about it. I have one final point. When Ethel Percy Andrus created AARP, she expressed 3 goals for older Americans. dignity, independence, and purpose. I think Dr. Andrus's words have every bit as much meaning today as they did in 1958, the year AARP was born. People will always want lives of dignity, independence, and purpose. Those values are worth fighting for. Those values are what all of you in this room are fighting for. They were relevant in the last century, and they will be relevant 100 years from now when our grandchildren will still be active and happy AARP members. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and I'd be happy to take any questions.